All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. When you're trading options, especially when you are trading American style options, they have the potential to be exercised if you are long them, but also assigned if you are short them at any point during their life cycle, up to and including the moment they expire. Those are American style options. European style options are completely different. European style options can only be exercised at the moment of expiry. That's part of the reason why European style options tend to be index options. American style options tend to be equity options. And so you need to consider this when we're starting to talk about the difference of these two options and their profile time-wise, that there's going to be a time lag between the time when one of these options expires and the other option expires. During that period, you have some risks that are really interesting depending on what you have on. But what you have on for the entirety of the spread is the short end of your trade, the call that you're short, and the long end of your trade both have the same ability to be exercised or assigned. Now, because you're short one of them, you incur the liability of the assignment risk. Because you're long the other one, you have paid for the ability to exercise that call. However, when we're talking about options in the back of the curve, you need to remember that anytime you decide to exercise an option, you are converting that option and all of its option premium that's built into it, its extrinsic value, especially the extrinsic part of its value, into a stock position. And the extrinsic value of that option is not going to translate to your stock position. If you're exercising the call in the back of the curve, you're giving up all of the time premium or the extrinsic premium that exists in that option. So that is not a recommended way to deal with exercise and assignment here. Oftentimes people will send us questions saying, I have this diagonal on and I got assigned on the short leg in the front of the curve. Can I just exercise my long call and be done with this whole thing? And the answer to that is, yeah, sure, you can exercise your long call. You have paid for the right to exercise that call. However, if you do that, let's say the call is trading 10 bucks and only $5 of it is intrinsic value, meaning parity. If you exercise that call, you're going to lose the rest of that $5 because what you're doing is you're taking an option that has time premium built into it and thus part of its premium built into it as the time, and you're converting it to something that has no time, which is stock. When you're going from an option that has time to another position that has no time, the time value disappears and is gone because what you're doing is converting an option to a stock. Stocks have no expiration date, thus they have no time premium. Always remember that when you're talking about this. So you can be exercised on the front month or the closer term options. The options that you're short are American style options. If they are American style options, they have the ability to be assigned at any point during the time. If you are assigned, you have a different position on now. You have to take into account the fact that you might be, if the example that we used before actually ends up with you being assigned on that 120 call, what you have now is that longer term 105 call. And if you got assigned on your 120 call, you're short stock from 120 from the strike price. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, you should understand that this position is different than the position that you had on before. It has different risks and it has different P&L profiles that are significantly different than what you had before. You might end up with a position that looks totally different than what you thought you had on through expiration or through assignment. And that is the situation in which assignment risk starts to come into play and people start to get a little bit confused sometimes. In this